Hi everyone, Tony Tonkin here. Welcome to my show. I am completely fascinated by the obsession that we see from people like Andrew Bolt around Greta Thunberg. It's almost as if, let me think, they're jealous. They can't get over the fact that originally a 16-year-old child was able to develop enough interest in the climate wars and to get the accolades, the celebration that came about Greta, her ability to be able to talk at the United Nations about the way young people view climate change and what needed to be done by our leaders so that her generation and generation following don't suffer from a decline in our climate and we either boil to death or we get swamped by rising oceans. But the Sky News and Andrew Bolt in particular, seemed to object to this young woman and her particular claim to fame. And as she gets older, they find it, I think, a little bit more resentful in a strange sort of way, probably because she's been around for so long. She has had quite a degree of influence that she represents this younger group of people. The problem that they struggle with the most is that a young person can be smarter than them, and that this young person has far greater influence and power than what they do with their multi-billion-dollar network behind them. So it makes you wonder they must wonder how this one person, this now probably 18, 19-year-old, has been able to develop so much of a following. So there was a segment on Sky News recently in Andrew Bolt's session where he appeared to be quite upset by the influence that she had. Now, what interests me, and I'll show you in a second, is that he ran through her history. So, and I kind of wonder, well, why would you be presenting all the things that this young woman has done and then pull her to shreds? And what it came down to is he could not face the reality of her popularity. Now, if you've got a large ego like Bolt, I guess the simple fact is that a 16-year-old kid eventually getting more coverage than you do, more important than you are, having more power and influence than you do, must hurt. It must be extremely painful. And also, we must consider that people like Bolt are hell-bent on destroying the left wing as much as they can and bolstering up the right wing. And Bolt is simply in conflict. So let's just have a look a little bit about what Bolt has to say, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Breaking news, Greta Thunberg cult has gone bust. Thunberg was once everywhere. She was the spiritual leader of global warming at just 16 years of age, which was the year after starting a school strike for climate movement in Sweden. And not only spiritual, one parish of the Church of Sweden anointed her as successor to Christ. This theory around her was incredible. She was Time Magazine's Person of the Year, nominated 3 times for a Nobel Peace Prize. Most politicians couldn't get enough of it. They invited same schoolgirl everywhere to make themselves look, in touch with the youth. Thunberg addressed France's National Assembly, addressed the European Union, lectured the United Nations Secretary General, talked at the World Economic Forum, and
I just love all this stuff because here he is building her up, describing all the wonderful things that she's done in order to pull her down. And it reminds me a little bit about that Australian syndrome, the tall poppy syndrome, where we must have these, whoever they are, if they're powerful, if they're influential, if they're, an artist or a star or somebody that appears to be of importance or someone that's wealthy, then our task must be to pull them down. This is kind of what Australians do. A lot of the time we do it with tongue-in-cheek because sometimes we just don't care. But for someone like Andrew Bolt, this is strategically important to him. There is great meaning for him in the fact that Greta has been successful. My guess would be that Bolt would love to have been as successful as her. He's getting to become an old man, quite frankly. Like, his day has passed. The best he can do is a column in the paper and a segment on Sky News, which is hardly watched by anybody. There are YouTubers who have far more people watching them than what Andrew Bolt does here. And there are far more people taking notice of Greta than they are of him. And that's evident from all the stuff that he's just talked about, plus the fact he himself is promoting her on his own show. How bloody bizarre is that? He's giving her airtime, but there again, I must confess, I'm here giving Andrew airtime. God bless his socks. But with my 56 subscribers, who gives a shit? I don't think he will. So here he is trying to destroy her reputation after outlining what her reputation is and how successful this young woman has been. And there are times when I have to, I think some of the stuff that Greta does is cringeworthy. But then often I put that down to a very young person who's being extremely passionate. And also put it down to the fact that, English isn't her native tongue. And she may not know how to express herself as would a lot of us do, even though I must confess, Andrew Bolt speaks English, and I still find it hard to understand what he's trying to express from time to time. But the important thing is that here he is, trying desperately, with all his heart, to destroy this woman after promoting her.
And you find something.
How dare you! You have stolen my dreams, my childhood, with your empty words.
A mere child, full of rage, obsessed with doom, totally devoid of any practical solutions, but here she was, lecturing the world on how to fuel their advanced...
When I was reviewing this earlier, I was thinking, Andrew Bolt, I have yet to hear you develop and even present a practical solution about anything. And Greta has, particularly about the emissions rate and what it is that we should be doing, what we should be cutting back to, and by what time, and all that sort of stuff. But from Bolt and from Kenny and from a crazy person, Paul Murray, we never hear a solution. All we ever hear is bloody criticism, and so they're picking on this young woman who, incidentally, would never watch their show, who doesn't give a shit about what Andrew Bolt thinks. I can assure you, they won't even know who Andrew Bolt is, and if Andrew Bolt was ever able to have her on his show and interview her, I'm convinced she would make an absolute fool of him, because she has the facts, the figures, the passion, and the arguments, which she's been developing for many years over her short lifespan, that Andrew probably has never even thought about. In fact, I do wonder what Andrew Bolt is passionate about anyway. Is there anything that sets him on fire? Anything that he feels he's extremely critical about it, almost everything, particularly everything that the left does, but he never offers a reasonable suggestion about anything that could be changed. And I want to talk about that later in a video in terms of what they're doing in relation to criticising the current Labor Party, yet offering no solutions, because they don't have solutions, they just have criticisms. So I would suggest that Andrew chooses other people that he wishes to attack, and that he finds that he must face the fact that he's a fading journalist, and that his time probably with Sky is limited. His influence is almost zero, because Sky just have very little coverage whatsoever, and that perhaps about time he just let people go. And if you want to have an intellectual discussion, find someone to have one with, rather than just with the camera and some clips from somewhere else. Thanks for being with me, everybody. Take care, look after yourselves, and be safe.